our Vision 2020, the My Tomorrow Comprehensive Plan. The plan covers key improvement strategies to take Cincinnati Public Schools to the next level. The plan draws upon the groundwork we have laid over the past 3 years with our My Tomorrow initiative, and that is designed to position all CPS students for success in the real world. At the same time, Vision 2020, My Tomorrow, outlines some new strategies. One of the most important is a 3-year expansion strategy to add new programs to strengthen our neighborhood schools. Strengthening our neighborhood schools is really a matter of equity. There's high demand for a lot of our magnet schools, specialized schools like Walnut Hills and SCPA. But we want to make sure that our neighborhood elementary schools are popular choices for our parents, and they fit in with that neighborhood or those community improvement strategies and priorities. We know from a survey of our stakeholders last fall that actually the number one option was, or the number one choice was, strengthen our neighborhood schools. So tonight we will be presenting a 3-year plan to add new programming to our neighborhood schools starting this coming August. Now, we're not naming specific, engage the staff and the community because we just don't think it's right that they hear it here first. We need to be working with them to design their programming. But we will be giving some exciting, just really talking about the overall plan and what is coming for 7 neighborhood schools in 16-17 and an additional 10 in 17 and 18. Now, of course, this is all done under the guidance of our board members. And I would have put your picture up there, but you just had it taken this evening. So we've listed our board members' names.
Thank you.
And also our board goals, the 5 areas in which you have directed the administration to focus. So tonight, we're going to be talking about great learning choices and great learning environments. And of course, all of this is framed under the Board of Education's equity focus, and I know you're looking on a board policy and a resolution around equity. So, tonight's presentation is going to start with Dr. Lofton, who's going to talk about the research that really grounds our plan. So we're going to have members of the leadership team move back and forth from this other podium so we don't waste any time. So right now to continue the program is Dr. Gabe Lofton.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So, as we began our work, our superintendent and our deputy superintendent were fairly explicit about how we should approach the work. They laid out 3 foci for us to keep in mind as we engage in the work and as we talk to different stakeholder groups. The first is fidelity. They wanted us to pay strict attention to even implementation across all of our high schools. The second is intensity. They wanted us to be aware that implementation had to be robust and that implementation had to have some degree of force to it. So as a result of that mandate and that charge, we actually implemented very sophisticated performance monitoring protocols. And we're talking about our My Tomorrow initiative here. And last but not least, passion. As it relates to our My Tomorrow initiative, we were charged with presenting a compelling vision of why the work was important. So why we needed to engage in the work and what type of collective impact that it would have on student achievement and student success. So in short, fidelity, intensity, and passion were those 3 guiding foci that we were charged with from our superintendent. So as evidenced up here on the slide, and it's not exhaustive, but it really communicates to all that we wanted to do due diligence, and we wanted to make sure that when we engaged in the work that we were actually looking at the best research out there. both qualitative research and both quantitative research. So we read articles, we read books, we engaged in conversations and dialogue, and I might add it was fairly robust. So as evidenced up here, the research really is around effective school models and best practices as it relates to teaching and learning. So this slide and this schematic really speaks to how we organize ourselves. And it really connects and goes back to what I talked about before: fidelity, intensity, and passion. So as you can see, we set up a steering committee. We convened a steering committee. We held listening sessions with all of our different stakeholder groups. So who are they? Teachers, administrators, higher ed partners, parents, families, all those different constituent groups and stakeholder groups we had listening sessions with. And all we did was we sat in the back, we took copious notes, and we listened. And after it was over, across several days, we went back, we had more robust conversations, we looked at the data, we summarized the data and synthesized it, and really drew some conclusions as to what we heard and what was said in those listening sessions. We performed a gap analysis. So we did an audit across all of our schools. We wanted to see where the gaps were. And we wanted to be clear about where those gaps were. Of course, we anecdotally had heard where those gaps were, but we wanted to make sure that once again, we're doing due diligence, so we went back and performed a gap analysis. And as you can see in that second box there, the vision. So we developed a vision around our work. And we convened, once again, design teams and work teams and talked about how we needed to move forward with the work, keeping in mind that, once again, we wanted to make sure that whatever we implemented was done with fidelity and intensity. And one last thing on this slide, in the middle you see professional development. So once we performed the gap analysis, we wanted to make sure that we provided the necessary support in order to actually get the work done, and the aligned professional development for our schools and for our teachers and for our administrators. So that's how we organize the work. So the high school draft vision statement. So as an outgrowth of the listening sessions, the work teams, the gap analysis, came the high school vision statement, which delineates the core components of our work and the related and aligned look-fors. So our My Tomorrow strategic document. So as a result of the superintendent mandate, the research, the design team, the listening sessions, the My Tomorrow guiding principles and the core components coalesced in what we called our My Tomorrow strategic document. And really, once again, we always refer to this as our roadmap. You know, this document is really telling us how we need to move forward with implementation across all of our school sites. And last but not least, we also developed a CPS digital learning plan, which talks about how we engage technology and integrate technology within teaching and learning across all of our schools. So I will turn it over to our Deputy Superintendent, Laura Mitchell.
Good evening. We're super excited tonight to talk about the work that we've done. We know that we still have a long way to go, but we think that we've really made some progress in terms of our thinking, our strategic planning around making sure that our students are ready for the real world. So we've actually been laying the groundwork for several years, and tonight we want to put it together into one seamless strategic document and plan, and then also talk about what's to come in terms of the future. So as we thought about our work, we really organized it under these major tenets in terms of competencies for our students, our great schools, career readiness, exceptional students, thriving classrooms, partnerships, and IMCPS, which addresses our employee complement. And so when we thought about the skills that we want our students to have, as Dr. Lofton indicated, we did have listening sessions with partners. And what's really interesting is that the business people, employers, university folks, as well as parents all said different things, but there's one message that they all had in common. And that one message was centered around when students graduate from our schools, they want to make sure that they are prepared to make a decent living and wage earnings. And so that really became the major focus for our work. So when we think about student competencies, we actually thought about competencies that go beyond the academic competencies. So of course we want our kids to be able to read and write and to be literate in each content area and to do math extremely well and to be able to articulate their thoughts. But we also want to make sure that our students are proficient in terms of using technology and public speaking, in networking, in developing project plans and managing finances. These are things that go beyond some of the academic aspects of the work. And so in 14-15, we introduced our My Tomorrow initiative, starting with our 7th and 8th grade students. We added a lot of personal components to the work in terms of making sure that it was personalized for our students. One-to-one technology for 7th and 8th grade students to make sure they had advantage of using all of the things that kids will need to be able to demonstrate and do in the real world. We also added some blended learning offerings for our students. Again, everything that we're doing is really about equity, access, and opportunity. In 15-16, we expanded our work even further. So we looked at our high school course guide and we thought it needs to look more like a college guide. And we made sure that we benchmarked against high-performing districts, not just urban districts, but high-performing districts. We also decided that we're going to expand our advisory. And so we actually dropped advisory down to 5th and 6th grade. And we also extended it to 9th through 12th grade. And so all of our kids, 7 through 12, have an opportunity for a 45 to 60-minute block each week to really focus on social emotional learning skills as well as creating a pathway that's related to careers. In addition, we expanded our device offerings to our 9th through 12th grade students as well. Many of the things that we've done have been very intentional, but to be quite honest with you, some of the innovative things have come out of problems, trying to solve very difficult problems. And so one example is the fact that sometimes it was challenging to get teachers to come to the Marathon Academy to receive professional development in technology. And so our Chief Information Officer was able to solve this. Sarah was able to solve this problem in a very creative way, and she created a tech truck. So it's this truck that's on wheels that I'm sure you've heard about, and it goes to the schools, and teachers actually come outside where they can have one-on-one or small group instruction on how to use different aspects of technology. And already within a few months, we've trained more teachers that way than over a couple of years. And so again, we're always looking for creative ways to solve problems. We also noticed that, quite honestly, there were many of our kids who didn't have access to advanced placement courses. And so we really expanded the face-to-face options as well as the blended learning options. And so last year we had approximately 90 kids who took advantage of a blended learning AP course. This year we have expanded to over 490 kids. And so again, we're always thinking about access and opportunity for all of our students. So what's to come in the future? Next year, we want to look at advisory for our 3rd and 4th grade students, not for a 45 to 60-minute block of time. We think that's probably developmentally inappropriate, but we do believe we need to work on those social emotional learning skills as well as the career readiness skills as young as 3rd grade, quite honestly, as young as preschool. We're also going to be looking at some competency-based learning through a grant that we received, where we're going to be benchmarking our students' skills against, again, high-performing districts and what they expect their kids to be able to do and demonstrate, as well as what our community has said that they want from our kids. So as we've been doing all of this really exciting work, it was pointed out to us that we really had a gap in our work, and that was around student leadership. And so everything that we were doing was really being adult-led, and we were pushed to and challenged to think about student leadership. And so this year we launched a student leadership initiative in our high schools around college readiness. And we put together teams of kids within each high school to go back to their schools and to create a college-going culture within their schools led by our students. And so they launched, or will be launching 4 campaigns this year. They've already launched 2. One is around applying for college. One is around ACT preparation. The third one, which will launch a little bit later this month, is around FAFSA completion. And then the last one is a celebration at the end of the year, which is the college sign-in, where the seniors go across the stage and they sign to the school that they're going to go into, or their pathway, the career pathway, while the 7th through 11th graders watch. So we'll be expanding those leadership opportunities next year to the other 4 areas listed on the PowerPoint. So as we do this work, we recognize that, quite honestly, we have to have a growth mindset. And a growth mindset says that we can teach ourselves to be smarter as long as we apply persistence and energy and grit along with the right techniques. And so we're really looking at our principal complement and the professional development that we're going to be offering them. And so you can see the leadership development that we want to offer them in the upcoming years. And central office didn't sit around and identify these skills. These skills are actually being identified, or topics that are being identified by our principals. And then we also would like to launch a teacher academy so that we would be able to say that all of our principals and teachers have a set of competencies that says, I am CPS. So all this is being done, quite honestly, to prepare our students for careers and career pathways. And so you can see these are some of the things that we're going to be working with our students on as it relates to helping them be prepared for a career pathway. So this is how the work is currently structured. During advisory blocks of time, grades 5 through 8, when they're in advisory, they are exploring a different career cluster each semester, so that by the time a student reaches the end of the 8th grade, they will have experienced all 16 recognized, nationally recognized career clusters, which will give them a better idea of what careers they may really be interested in as they go into high school and into a pathway outside of CPS. At grades 9 and 10, we've developed a career training center where students would be able to go and interact with professionals through workshops. Grade 11 would actually be the experiences in our workplaces as well as internships in grade 12. Just to highlight, we had a career expo back in the fall. We had over 400 kids to attend that expo with over 30 organizations represented. We had over 100 volunteers there from the professional fields that are identified through our career clusters, and it was very exciting for our students. One student actually received a job right there on the spot. That wasn't the purpose of the Career Expo, but it really highlights how professional our kids can demonstrate as long as they're given the access and the opportunity to bring forth their skills. Our Career Expo was actually highlighted in Venue magazine, so we're very proud of that work. These are the topics that we covered during our training center for our 9th and 10th grade students. Again, we have professionals come in and teach these workshops for our kids, and so these are practitioners in the field that bring a level of accountability as well as credibility that sometimes we don't have in the education world. And so our kids have actually benefited from this already. By the end of March, we will have had over 900 kids actually attend the Career Training Center. So at the end of the day, this is all about getting our kids to a future beyond Cincinnati Public Schools. And so we know that we currently have 1,744 seniors, and we need to have all 1,744 accepted into a career pathway. Whether it's a 2-year school, 4-year school, apprenticeship, internship, if they're going into the world of work or if they're going into the military. But we're collecting that information and we're actually tracking it on a weekly basis through our dashboard to ensure that all 1,744 kids are accepted into a pathway. Not self-reported, but we're going out and getting the verification from the institutions in which they will go to next year. So as a result of this work, we've already seen an increase in our ACT scores. We've expanded significantly our AP offerings, as well as we've also seen a increase in our students who are receiving 3s, 4s, and 5s on the AP exams, and our graduation rate is rising. So everything that I've talked about doesn't exclude our students with disability or our ELL students. They are included as a part of all of this. It's very important for us to make sure that they have access and exposure as well. We do, however, recognize that there are some students who have more intensive needs, and so we're providing those supports for them through co-teaching, as well as resource rooms and some individualized, customized units for those students. But the key is that we want all kids to have access. So these initiatives, programs aren't for certain kids, they're for all kids. We're also expanding our gifted offerings. So we have itinerant gifted teachers who service our students, as well as some schools have full-time teachers. I'm sure that you've already heard and seen that we'll also be expanding our programming for gifted on the west side of town at Cheviot for next year. So we're very excited about that work. And we'll actually be learning from the work that's already taken place at Hyde Park School. So we've talked about academics, we've talked about getting our kids to career pathways, but we also recognize that there's a culture aspect of the school. And so it's very important for us to create these thriving environments for our students so that they have the social emotional skills to do well in their academics, but also to get along with each other. So this is a major component of our work, as well as a major component of our advisory sessions. Now, we couldn't do this work alone, and we have lots of collaborative structures in place to help us, from our school-based collaboration as well as our community-based collaboration. And so, again, we're welcoming people to come with us, to work with us, to push our thinking, to challenge us, to always come up with the very best that we could possibly offer our kids. And so thinking of collaborative structures, it makes sense that we would do a lot of intentional work around retooling our employee complement to make sure that they are ready to really handle the demand of the new type of way that we'll be instructing our students. And so Paul McDowell, our HR director, will talk about IMCPS.
Good evening. Very excited to be here to talk to you about IMCPS. As Deputy Superintendent Mitchell indicated before, this is really our employee complement for the work that's being done in our classrooms. And if you will, it's kind of a culture supporting great schools. And to give you some background, about a year ago, a little over a year ago, a group of individuals came together in partnership with Mayerson, and that group sat down and started looking at what does it look like to be an employee of Cincinnati Public Schools? What do we want our employees to have? When we're recruiting, what type of employees are we looking for? And there was a lot of discussion around that, and many of us are very familiar with the culture of General Electric, GE, our partner in education, Apple. They have developed their own culture. The goal was for Cincinnati Public Schools to develop that culture. What does that look like? What do we want to our employees? And basically what we've come up with as far as a vision at this point, it's a culture transformation. What we want our employees to look like, how we're going to support our employees, have them grow and be successful in the work that we're doing. So it's not only for our current staff, it's also for the staff that we're looking for in the future, what we're looking for to educate and support the good work that's being done in our schools. So we were very excited to come up with basically the CPS values. And you've probably seen some of the literature in the main hallway or over at Iowa Street where we have it displayed as well. But the group, through many discussions, came up with the idea of the CPS values. Those are on the left-hand side. I care, I continuously improve, I collaborate, and I commit to success. And then the group also established competencies as to what that looks like as far as how we would support that and what we want to see in our current employees, how we support them to get to that point. Many of them are there, but some might need assistance to get there as well. And how we then use that to look at future hires as we're bringing new talent into the school district as well. So through many discussions, every other week sessions, we're slowly working through these sessions, and it started with the leadership team. The superintendent was very clear that this needs to start with her team, her leadership team, so we can be the model and represent that to the district. It's not here's how you should be, here's how we will be to model that to you. And then you can also see how we then basically would evaluate this and test this going forward. So we will actually be taking surveys of our staff to see where we are, to see where we need to go, where we need to improve, what we could do differently. And then lastly, again, kind of with the literature and promoting this good work, we also did, there was a revamp of the CPS staff website. And as you can see, I Collaborate is the example we have here, but it basically focuses in on employees within the district who are doing that work, exemplifying that work in the district. So thank you very much for your time. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Cheryl Brodnax.
Good evening. As we talk about great schools, it would be remiss not to mention our preschool programs, as it is one of the earliest touch points for our families and communities. Cincinnati Public Schools provides quality, comprehensive preschool programs and collaborative services to support our young children and families for lifelong learning. This is our current profile of Cincinnati Public Preschools, covering 91 square miles. We provide a consistent curriculum across all 80 classrooms that focus on meeting the individual needs and interests of our students. Our 1,200 students are nurtured and instructed by professional educators that provide various learning opportunities to develop the academics, social emotional skills, and healthy practices in all 37 locations. Sorry, went a little too far. This map is showing our current state of preschools. Here you can see our 37 sites spread out across the district. The blue stars are school locations operated by Cincinnati Public Schools, and the green stars are school locations operated by some of our partners. Our preschool locations generally reflect the demographics of the district as a whole, and as you can see, our district neighborhoods have access to quality Cincinnati public preschool programs. This is the expansion of early childhood programs. The demand for Cincinnati Public Preschool has been high. Our district has furthered its ongoing commitment. We have over a quarter of a century providing preschool programs, and we will continue with further commitment by the additions of additional programs next year, as seen on the slide above, including our new Early Learning Center at the Vine Street location. With these additions, it brings Cincinnati Public Preschools to the capability of servicing 1,458 preschool students in 95 classrooms at 38 sites. And with that, I'll be turning this over to our Assistant Superintendent, Bill Miles, for neighborhoods.
Good evening. Good evening. I want to start off with a map here, and this is just to show how vast our district is, going from far west to far east, from the river all the way up to the north. And I think I want you to see this because of the diversity within these communities. And one of our jobs is to take all of these communities and melt them into one. Because what our true goal is to make a better Cincinnati. Because we understand that Cincinnati will only become better if its public school system is better. Under the direction of our superintendent, she's really asked us to be a data-driven district and really look at our data to determine what our next decisions are. So last fall, under Public Affairs, Ms. Janet Walsh, she sent out a survey to our stakeholders. And it was clear and very evident of what the number one priority was of our stakeholders. And that priority was to improve our neighborhood schools, strengthen our neighborhood schools. Great kids. So we started to look at our program, and what I want to say, and some of you know, before I put on all this weight, I was an athlete. And one of the coaches was John Wooden, and he had a quote that said, "Be quick, but don't hurry." And what we're trying to do is be quick, but not hurry. And you try to say, what is the difference? Being quick is being strategic, moving fast in a strategic way. Hurrying is just doing things haphazard. So we are trying to move along. It might not be as fast as some people want, but we are trying to move quick in a strategic method. One of the programs that we are starting, and I think Deputy Superintendent mentioned this, was our Gifted Expansion Program. We're going to start that in one school. It will be in our neighborhood school. It will be in a neighborhood school. Part of the reason behind that, it's about differentiated instruction. We look at data, and there's something on data about safe harbor. And with that, you're looking at our top kids and our kids who are struggling. Are we really pushing those kids forward? By having it in the neighborhood school, all kids get the benefit from it because there's access to it. And as we talked about access, opportunity, and equity. That plan, that school will start in 2016. Arts and culture. Dr. Lofton is always bringing us about the research. Research is very important. We don't want to put something forward because we say, well, that's what I want to do because I said so. It needs to be research-based. So as we look, the research says those students who are in the arts, who do that culture, and I know Ms. Bolton, you would agree with this, have higher reading scores. They write better. They're better problem solvers. So we want to make sure that we're bringing those types of things in at least 2 of our schools next year. What does that look like? It's project-based. It's not something that just will happen for a week that, okay, it's arts time. It's something that we would have quarterly residencies. We have enough artists in our community that we've already spoken with who are already willing to work with us in our schools to provide our students with the opportunity. What we want to start off with at first is instrument and vocal music. That would be one area. Dance would be another. And then the visual arts. We have folks that want to work with our students. As I said, there are people that our students can actually touch. It's not something that they see far away. It's something that they can actually work with in those fields. And then as the future progresses, we're looking at adding media arts because as we know, that's something that's growing right now. And then the theater. There's some of the work from Michael Coxon. He's one of the local artists here who we've already contacted. Another program that we want to start in 2016 would be implemented in 2016 in 2 schools is student enterprise. As we look at our data, the administration, the academic team, one of the indicators that keeps coming up that we have trouble with is how do we relate real life opportunities to this math? Or how do we relate this English to real life opportunities? Here's an opportunity. All of our kids are interested in money. Our deputy superintendent talks about all the time that she wasn't interested in math, but she's interested in shopping. So she didn't care about math until she realized she needed to know math in order to figure out the taxes and the discounts. So that was motivation for her to figure out, how can I learn math? Why do I need to learn math? Here's an opportunity for us to do that. It's project-based. It's something that is bringing our students, they have to know how to communicate because they have to put together a business plan. They have to know that math because it's about profit and margins. So that is something that we want to look at and give our students an opportunity to be successful in. Environmental science. We've already talked about that. We've had several groups that have been talking with us for years. Here's something that we want to put forth. We've had a board member here, Alex Coons, who was here, who would talk about green schools. He wanted our district to be green. We have several of our schools that are, I think, Bill Moore, they're called lead schools or something like that, that they're green. So why aren't we doing some of those types of activities within our school? Why is that important? It brings about critical thinking. It talks about communication skills. And most importantly, it talks about civic responsibility because we want to make Cincinnati better. And in order for us to do that, we have to encourage that at an early age. Sarah's going to come up here and talk about a couple things.
So another school program for implementation next school year is a high technology elementary school. We know that 80% of the jobs, future jobs in the next decade will require digital skills. And actually, right now in the year 2016, a couple of the most in-demand jobs are software developers and network administrators, with vastly more job openings than candidates to fill those. So the high technology elementary school will consist of one-to-one laptops for grades 3 through 6, digital curriculum, and an online learning management system, which will centrally house the online class assignments and materials. Will also include blended learning, which allows for a combination of the traditional teacher-led instruction with online instruction, in which the student has some control over the pace and the path of learning. There will also be emphasis on teaching students coding, as shown in this coding tool here called Scratch, as well as other age-appropriate computer science curriculum, such as, amazingly, database creation and querying, multimedia creation, and basic HTML.
As we move forward, here's the piece about not hurrying too much. Next year, we want to get into a planning year for a gender-based school. Think, why is that important? We have many kids who don't feel comfortable when they're both genders within the same building. But what we're looking at is to make sure that we're providing all of those students with leadership opportunities. We would have, and we've talked to folks about this, about featured speakers, coming from lots of different careers, talking to our children about the things that they can do no matter what gender that they are. But that is something that we are in the planning year for 16-17. We would like to talk to many different communities about what's best for them and how that might be implemented within their community school. Dual language. This is something that's moving along. I've been in this community for 30 years. When I first came, there weren't a lot of folks that spoke other languages other than English. It's also, if we're preparing our kids for the future, Dr. Lofton and Ms. Mitchell talked about those pathways. One of those pathways is going to college. Some of those is going to work. What has been, we want our children to be competitive. So we want to expose them to multiple language at an early age. It is far easier for our young child here, who is a graduate of 2033, to start at an early age and understand that respect the diversity of different languages. So we are looking forward with that. We do want to do a planning year next year and see how that really goes and make sure that we are providing the curriculum that we need so our children will be successful, and then hopefully we would be implementing the following year. Dr. Lofton?
So high schools. So led by our deputy superintendent, our My Tomorrow initiative is really about workforce development. So we really do have a fairly robust workforce development initiative within the district currently. And what I'm about to show you is a video that really illustrates all the different programs, career technical programs, vocational programs that our students are a part of across all of our high schools within the district.
Imagine a high school where hands-on experiences solve real-world problems, where community leaders are champions of students' success, and where students pursue their dreams with confidence. Cincinnati Public Schools has reimagined high school, combining higher expectations, technology, and mentoring to prepare students for college and the workplace. Each of our 17 high schools is different, but all lead students on a path of self-discovery through a rigorous college preparatory curriculum, and all are open to students with disabilities. Cincinnati Public Schools is the top-performing urban district in Ohio, largely based on performance of our award-winning high schools. We've restructured to offer advanced placement and dual enrollment that helps make college less expensive by giving students a head start on earning credits. Students begin high school in the 7th grade, so they're prepared for the more rigorous content taught in grades 9 through 12. Our instructors have mastered the subjects they teach and help students dig deeper to understand and apply what they've learned in the real world. Speaking of the real world, Cincinnati Public High Schools offers dozens of technical programs that equip students with job skills and credentials to help launch their careers upon graduation. Gilbert A. Dater High School's Culinary Arts program allows students to graduate with hundreds of hands-on hours that will place them ahead of their peers in college-level culinary schools. Hughes STEM High School is home to the Zoo Academy. Housed on the grounds of the Cincinnati Zoo, it's the only program in the U.S. that allows students to work directly with zookeepers. Other career pathways prepare students to be medical professionals, engineers, software developers, and more. Woodward High School's Building Technologies program teaches both the theory and business of construction. Hands-on training helps students earn apprenticeships and land summer jobs in construction. The Advanced Manufacturing program focuses on engineering, and the Health Technology pathway introduces students to biotechnology, laboratory science, nutrition, sports medicine, and patient care. The celebrated School of Creative and Performing Arts not only prepares students for performance, but also trains those who want to work behind the scenes to ensure a flawless production. From information technology at Taft to skills and needs. CPS just completed a $1 billion renovation project to ensure that all schools meet the technology requirements of a 21st century education. And all of our schools are environmentally friendly, meeting or exceeding engineering and efficiency standards. CPS spent more than $19 million to upgrade athletic facilities, including a football and track complex at Stargill Stadium, a gymnasium and synthetic turf football and all-weather track at Withrow, and a football, soccer, and track complex at Walnut Hills. Our high schools offer hundreds of sports and extracurricular activities that make learning fun. As the region's largest school district, Cincinnati Public Schools simply has more to offer. Now's the best time to start thinking about high school options. Our application period takes place February 17th through the 27th. Here's how to apply. See for yourself how Cincinnati Public Schools prepares students for life.
So I'm not sure it's always widely known, but as you can see, as evidenced in this video, we have tons of high quality, innovative programs across all of our high schools that are really centered and grounded in career tech and technology for our students. So this slide really depicts and illustrates all those programs that you saw within the video. So I won't read through all of them, but Hughes STEM, Gamble, SCPA, Woodward, Aiken, Withrow, they all have career technical programs within the school. Riverview East, Taft, and Western Hills. So for high school, for 2016-17, year one, we have one school that we plan to do some reimagining around, and that's virtual high school. So we're going to retool virtual high school. Virtual high school is our dropout recovery high school. Next year, our plans are to add advisory for our students. So we want to personalize learning. For those students. We want to add some graduation and career coaches for those students. We also want to do an e-portfolio, which would be their capstone. So for 2017 and 2018, year two, we have two schools that we're looking at and adding junior ROTC for Air Force and junior ROTC for Army. And we're currently within the application stage for both those ROTC programs. So I will turn it back over to our Deputy Superintendent.
So you can see that we've really been very intentional about our work. We have tried to develop a very comprehensive plan that takes into account our preschool students through 12th grade. And so this chart and the chart that precedes, or is yet to come, shows you all of the actual planning of the programs that we're looking at, as well as the implementation years. So to Bill's point, quite honestly, our feeling a sense of urgency, but at the same time, we want to be very intentional about our work and make sure that we do it well. And so you can see the things that we're planning for this year to implement next year, and then planning next year for the years to come. You will see on this slide a category that says innovation programs. These are programs that have yet to be identified. So these are programs, so we want to leave room and space and opportunity for those programs that we haven't considered or a community hasn't identified as of yet. In addition, we would like to be able to, with the support and the authorization of the board, to be able to work with Accelerate Great Schools to seek funding and partnerships to be able to fund some innovative programs to bring to our schools. So what are the next steps? In thinking about the planning that we're doing this year, one of our next steps is to really be able to engage the LSDMCs of the schools that we would like to be able to start working on for next school year. And so we'd also like to engage in the community conversation with those communities and LSDMCs to ensure that what we're putting forth is something that the community wants and something that we will be able to support on an ongoing basis. We also would like to be able to move forward in meeting with some of our business partners and other partners within the community to partner with us to help us get this work done. And then, of course, we would need to be able to identify the funding to help make this be successful. And at this time, I'll turn it over to our treasurer.
Good evening. So, as you're aware, we've begun building the budget for next year, and as part of that process is to incorporate these initiatives into that budget presentation as we come forward to the board. During that process, we will be we are currently evaluating all of our spending patterns and all the budgets, looking for ways to repurpose much of what we spend towards these new initiatives to lessen the size of a levy moving forward. As you know, in the 5-year forecast, it suggests that we will need to go for new money sometime in the near future. But I just wanted to remind the board that as we've been financially frugal, as the last levy for new money that was intended to last 5 years, we've been able to stretch for 8 years, despite our state funding formulas declining revenue and support to the district. So we spent a lot of time right-sizing and re-energizing budgets to make sure that we were able to pay for all these strategic initiatives and keep the momentum that we've experienced with My Tomorrow moving forward. We've seen an increase of our enrollment over the last few years. We've turned that decline back to a positive enrollment, and we see through applications and projections for next year that we're going to continue to see an approximately increase of 1,000 more students, which we will need to hire teachers to help educate those. In the spirit of transparency, we've opened up our books, and we have 3 studies going on at the time. Our business committee is helping to pay for Parthenon, which is a subdivision of Ernst & Young. They are doing a financial efficiency study, so they're reviewing all of our assumptions, our financial forecasts, and all of our spending patterns to ensure that we are being frugal. And the Ohio State Auditor's Office is also conducting a performance review in the Treasurer's Office. And thirdly, the American Federation of Teachers is also doing a financial study as well. And so we anticipate the results of these reports and these studies to come to us in March, which is right in line with our budget process. And we hope to use those reports and suggestions to help with our maximizing our budgets. And we hope that they will confirm our need for new money and then help to size it for us. So I think with that, I'm turning it back over to the superintendent.
Well, as we draw to the conclusion of our presentation tonight, we have a number of promises we'd like to make. We certainly want to keep the board and community informed, so as these schools come online, we'll be reporting out to the Partnership and Public Engagement Committee and also at board meetings. We're definitely going to focus on clearly and consistently creating great schools. We'll involve our stakeholders. That's why we're so happy that our principals and LSDMC members have joined us tonight to hear about the plan. We're going to look at reorganizing and funding strategies that support our great schools, because we have to make sure we do it frugally. And we will implement our strategies with passion, intensity, and fidelity. So this really concludes our presentation. And if the board has any questions, I certainly will be glad to answer, and my great staff. So thank you very much.
Thank you.